Move on, have a look at the business news now on France 24. Stephen Carroll is with us here on set. Stephen, you're starting off with a bit of a warning about the global economy. This is from the IMF, isn't it?
That's right. Trade tariffs and nationalist policies could put the global economy at risk. That's what the International Monetary Fund is saying anyway. The organisation publishing its latest growth forecast for this year and for next year. Now, the IMF has downgraded its expectations for global economic growth to 3.7%. That's 0.2 percentage points lower than it had predicted earlier this year. The forecast for the US and China remaining the same for this year, although the forecast for the US downgraded for next year. And the Eurozone growth forecast downgraded to 2% due to uncertainty over Brexit. The IMF warning that President Trump's tax policies are unsustainable and that more trade tariffs could knock a whole point off US growth.
Notwithstanding the present demand momentum in the US, we have downgraded its 2019 growth forecast owing to the recently enacted tariffs on a wide range of imports from China and China's retaliation. China's expected 2019 growth is also marked down. Domestic Chinese policies are likely to prevent an even larger growth decline than the one we project.
Google is shutting down its Google Plus social network after discovering a potential data breach. The internet giant discovered the issue back in March, but has only made it public now. The software glitch allowed developers to access private Google Plus data over a period of 3 years. Up to 500,000 accounts were affected. Yuka Royer has the story.
It never was a success. Launched in June 2011 to compete against the likes of Facebook, Google Plus, the company's fourth foray into social networking, has seen its user numbers grow to over 2 billion. But nobody's really using the service. 90% of them log off within 5 seconds. A bug causing a massive data compromise put a final nail in the coffin. In its blog post about the findings of its privacy policy review, Google said,
"The review did highlight the significant challenges in creating and maintaining a successful Google Plus that meets consumers' expectations. Given these challenges and the very low usage, we decided to sunset the consumer version of Google Plus."
The bug, resulting from a software update, allowed outside developers to access users' private data. Up to 500,000 accounts may have exposed information, including name, email address, occupation, gender and age, to over 400 apps. There's no evidence the data was misused. Google says it discovered the problem in March and immediately fixed it, but did not disclose it until now, partly because it couldn't identify the affected users. The Wall Street Journal earlier reported that Google opted not to come forth due to fears of facing regulatory scrutiny like Facebook did over Cambridge Analytica. The data bug announcement comes a few weeks after CEO Sundar Pichai finally agreed to testify at US Congress over allegations of political bias in search results.
Meanwhile, Google has also announced it's pulling out of the tender process for a major US defence contract, partly because it might breach its ethics principles around the use of artificial intelligence. In a statement, the company said it was dropping the bid also because it lacked the full military clearances to handle the Defence Department's work. Google had dropped a separate contract with the Pentagon earlier this year after outcry from its staff. Well, let's check in on what's happening on the markets for you next. European shares seeing some modest gains at the open of trading. You can see London, Paris and Frankfurt all up a little bit at the start of trading. We're keeping an eye on shares in the insurer Aviva today. They're up around 1.5%. That's after the news that its CEO, Mark Wilson, is leaving the company. The company saying they needed new leadership to take the group to the next phase of developments. Their shares up on that news. Over in Asia, Chinese shares a bit more stable today after the sharp falls we saw in Shanghai yesterday. Shanghai Composite just down slightly. The Hang Seng in Hong Kong trading flat. The Nikkei in Tokyo today seeing the big falls. It's down 1.3% at the close. On the currency markets, the euro trading for $1.15 and just under 88 pence sterling. Next, Pakistan's finance minister says the country will seek a bailout from the International Monetary Fund. Asad Umar said he'll hold talks with IMF officials later this month on behalf of Imran Khan's government. Pakistan is running short of foreign currency reserves, a situation being exacerbated by higher oil prices. It's expected to seek emergency loans of around $8 billion. And finally, for me, a chain of gyms in South Africa is handing members buckets for their showers in an effort to conserve water. Virgin Active says that it's cut water consumption across its gyms by 61% in the past year. It did so partly by asking members to collect the water from their showers to be recycled in the toilets. The company is also using water from its swimming pools to water the gardens. The steps put in place during severe water shortages in the Western Cape in South Africa. The measures have helped to boost the company's bottom line too, though. Profits before tax jumping last year almost tenfold to the equivalent of around €23 million. Stuart.
Some pretty good ideas there, some practical ideas for you as well. Thanks very much, Stephen. Stephen with Business on France 24.